Hi everyone, welcome to my studio. As promised, I'm going to show you how to make some really cool dolls made out of shoulder pads. These are two that I have already finished, and I'm going to show you how I put them together. But as you can see, I started out with shoulder pads. These came from a blouse, and what you'll find is when you're looking for shoulder pads inside blouses or shirts or even coat jackets, sometimes it's the same color as that object that you're taking it from. Like this one was definitely from a blouse, but this was the actual design. So I lucked out on this one as I don't have to do anything extra, just embellish. But as you can see, I put faces on them. And I did these with molds. These are molds that were made from clay, and you can use Model Magic or any sculpty clay that you have left over. You just press them and then pop them out and let them dry for at least 2 or 3 hours. They also sell molds in the store that look like this, and you'll get several faces. And I use the larger faces on these, but you can also use the smaller ones. Say you want to put two, like a mother and child, like a Madonna, you can put one here and then one here. But these are really easy to use. If you're feeling especially creative, you can always sculpt your own just with wet clay. So I'm going to put these two ladies aside for now and show you how this is done. Here I have 3 different pads. Okay, these are shoulder pads again that were taken out of garments. You want to wash them first in the washing machine. You can just use regular detergent. I would suggest you wash them with other clothes, that way you're not wasting water. Or you can wash them by hand, whichever is more convenient for you. Let them thoroughly dry because they do have foam inside. And depending on the kind of shoulder pad, some are thinner and some are thicker. So you have to decide which one you like best. This one has a thicker pad, but sometimes on the inside they tend to ride up depending on what kind of fabric that's on the outside. Sometimes it's cotton, sometimes it's rayon, or some kind of polyester blend. So once you have your shoulder pad and you have your faces done, okay, and it really doesn't really matter what color you use because you always can paint over it. You decide which one would look best. Okay. Again, you can always paint over it if you happen to have a color that you don't think that's going to match. I would suggest you use something that's kind of high contrast, like this one or this one, and even over here. So let's use this one. And I think I'm going to do this one like that one. Okay. Now you've made your selection. You're going to use glue. Now there are several different glues that you can use. You can hot glue this on. You can use, using the hot glue sticks. You can use regular liquid glue. You can also use tacky glue. It tends to take a little bit longer, but it holds a lot because it holds a lot better because it's stickier. But you can also use stick glue. That will work too for lighter objects. Once you've done that, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and squeeze a little bit on the back here. I'm going to use a tacky glue. Okay. And then you can place it. Now if you wanted your doll to be like this, you can always put it this way. That gives a totally different look. But for this time, we're just going to press it in the center. Okay. So while that is drying, I'm going to look in my stash, and I know that a lot of you have a stash of maybe some ribbon, maybe some beads, some found tassels that might work with this. Just kind of play with it a little bit. I've got some little fuzzy things here. Okay, this is from a section from a trimming, but it would make some great hair, I think, or even a beard, or maybe just something across there. So I would play with it a little bit before you decide and start gluing things down. Lay it out to see how it looks. Would it look good this way? Or maybe something off the shoulder and then put a pin over here. You'll use a combination of glue and stitching. So have some needle and thread available. I usually go ahead and thread up several different colors, so if I change my mind and want to use a different colored thread, it's already threaded. So you want to keep that handy. I like to do some small stitching, so I will also use some sequins. And you need to kind of corral them because they will get away from you. Or you can just put some glue on here and then sprinkle it just like glitter. But either way will work. I always use a toothpick, especially when I'm working with these little sequins. Say if I want to put a dot of glue, and don't worry about it if it's too big, because what's going to happen is as it dries, it will be clear. So I think I'll put a star here. And I like to use my toothpick. It helps, keeps it from sticking under my fingernails. Like I said, you can just sprinkle them on, no sewing required. Sprinkle them on and then move them around. Actually, it's a good thing that it's white right now because you can actually see where it's going, especially if you have a dark background. And here's a little red bead. So all these different trinkets that you've been saving, they come in handy. Got some big sequins here. I kind of like that one. Maybe I'll double stack that one and put a star in the middle, or another sequence. That one wants to pop. Okay, well maybe that's a good place for that. I'm going to take some of my glue at the end of my stick here and then just glue that down on top. Okay. And you don't always have to sew everything right away, because you know, as artists we're known to change our mind. So I would just use a straight pin here to hold it in place. And the dog won't mind because it doesn't hurt at all. So I'm going to pin that one here. And because I'm using a pin that has a head on it, I may later on want to put some sequins over there too. Okay? So it's coming along nicely. We're going to let that dry. The good thing about working with these is once you work with one area, while that's drying, you can do something else. And that's when the acrylic paint is going to come in handy. I've got several tubes of different color, different kinds. Again, colors that maybe I've used before or thought I was going to use, and then I changed my mind and decided, again, because we're artists, we're allowed to change our minds. And I have some brushes here, my detail brushes. I've got some flats, round. I love my little filbert for big areas, but I also have some small filberts too. But I think I'm just going to use round brushes on this one. Now I've already got red on here, so I want to think about a contrasting color. And because this is red, and maybe I want to add a little bit of yellow on top of here, and maybe add a little white too. Mix that together. This would be a good time you could use, remember I talked about the fingernail polish in another video, but this would be a great time to use fingernail polish too. Because again, it comes with its own brush, and you can add some glitter on top of that. And if I want to dark, I always like to start with my lighter colors first and then just work my way around. And I've got some of these same colors here, so maybe I will add a little bit of green. Green is a really good color next to red because it is in the complementary family. And sometimes just by painting over the shapes that's there, you can change the shape. I think I'm just going to go ahead on those little happy accidents. I'll just go ahead and make a little line over here. Okay. And maybe use a little more glue. Now I'm going to use some of this liquid glue. If I can get that out. If you don't want a big blob of paint, what you want to do is put some on the tip of your toothpick. That way you can more or less control where it's going to go. You can squirt it out on a plate, or you can put it directly on the object. The key is to get it off without making a bigger hole than you intended. Now I'm very carefully squeezing. I'm not squeezing really hard. Just a little bit at a time. And again, if you don't sew, that's okay. Glue goes a long way. Alright, kind of like that. Now I want to use some colors that are not red. And what I do, I picked up red. So no, I don't want to do that. So I'm going to put that one here. And maybe a gold one right here in the center. You can also use tweezers if you like, because that helps it to keep it steady. But I don't mind getting my fingers wet. You know how I am as an artist. Whatever goes, I'm going to go with the flow. I can't worry about trying to stay clean all the time. I would never get anything done. I think I'm just going to put green across here because that's what's out. And I don't have to do a lot of searching. And because my glue is still wet and I put dots, I did not squeeze it all the way around and make a long line. Because what happens is, as it's drying, it's still very slippery. But if I have dots, I can just move them over with little effort at all. Okay. Let's see, I have another gold one. Let me see what else I have over here. I'm going to bring some more over. Ooh, I like that star, but that's just a little bit too big for her forehead. And I'm saying her because, you know, it's a girl thing. What can I tell you? I'm going to put some more glue on here. And one here, and then one here on the temple. And again, as you can see, you can embellish this. You can spend hours and hours embellishing. I'm just giving you the Cliff Note version just to get you started, because there's so many possibilities. Alright. Okay. Now I will continue to paint on here like I did on the faces on this other one. You can see this used to be, I don't know what color that was, but as you can see, I painted over the original color. I think it was red also, but then I went back in with my brush and I embellished. Another way to paint over is to use your paint pen. And let me get out my favorite, good old gold. And again, you want to shake it and then test it, either on your paper towel or on a piece of paper, so you don't get a big blob, but you will get some kind of a bead of paint coming out, but you just don't want a lot of it. And as you can see, it's very fluid. Put some lines across here. So you can completely change the color or just add some accents. You can also do the same on the body of your little doll here. And gold just happens to be one of my favorite. And it really shows up very nicely on this really dark color. And I might as well put a circle around the ones I've already put the beads on. What will happen is the more you work with it, your mind will just be working overtime. So, oh, I wonder if I do this. What if I do this? What if I do this? I wonder what would happen. And of course, you can embellish around that. And I'm just using very simple shapes, layering my design. And it's really kind of unlimited. In this case, more is better than less. It will really give it a nice little pop of color and interest. Because if you're going to be a diva doll, you might as well go over the top. And that's why I call them diva dolls, because that's just what they are. Why blend when you don't have to? If you're going to stand out, give them something to look at. And these paint pens are just awesome. I'm going to put the gold down in a minute, but I'm in my happy place with this gold, so I want to make sure I get all of the sections done. And maybe one more over here. And again, this can be painted over with regular acrylic or acrylic from the pen. Let's see if this pink works. And I'm going to test it to make sure. And if it gets fuzzy on the edge, don't panic. Because you can always, there we go, make some of that paint come out. I'm just going to press that down. And I'm pressing it because I know just from practice it's not coming out in a full blast. So I may go over that one more time. But the gold, because it has metal in it, really makes it stand out. Okay. Let's see what else I have over here that might work. Okay, so now that I've got most of that embellishment done, and these little pieces are still drying a little bit, now I'm going to take out my beads. And it can be in any color combination. You can do single beads around, or none at all, or just glue them on, like I said, if you don't sew. But again, I always try to keep my needle and thread handy, because you just never know when you're going to have a sewing emergency. So I'm not going to sew all of this, but I do want to show you how you can embellish really quick. I am a lazy sewer, and I say that because I hate making a knot. So what I usually do is I just tack. And that means that I'm going to sew through here, pull it, pull it, pull it, pull it almost to the end, and then just loop around 3 times. That way I don't have to make a knot. It makes a knot all by itself. And I try to do it at least 3 times. That way it stays. Then I have to decide how I'm going to stack this. Maybe put the blue first and then the silver. And if I had some gold, I'd probably put some gold on the end, but I don't really have any. I don't see any gold right now. So maybe I'll put a sequence on the bottom so it doesn't come out. And did I check it? No, I did not check to see if the hole was big enough. So it does need to be big enough to make that happen. So I'm going to use one of these little blue ones. And that's going to be my anchor. And when I'm stacking, I just go back down into that one and pull it through. So that way it stacks. Okay. And then I'm going to hide it in between the layers. Come over, about 1/4 of an inch, and then come out. Okay. Straighten out my thread here, and then do the same thing. This time I'm going to start with a silver ball. And you can do every other one. Okay, I've got a blue one. And I'm going to anchor it with a silver one. So depending on how many beads you have, what I suggest you do is you mark it. You start here and then in the middle, and then go halfway and then halfway, halfway. That way you can determine, okay, I need X amount of beads. So depending on how many beads you think you'll need, always have a few extra, because it's usually never enough. And that's when that math comes in. You thought you're getting away from math. No, not with art. Lots of counting, lots of measuring. And then we'll just pretend that I've gone all the way around. And I'm just going to tie that off. Again, I'm going to do my tacking stitch about 2 or 3 times, really close to the bead. It's not real important that all of my stitches are hidden, but since I'm using a lighter colored thread, I don't want to stand out and take away from my artwork. So far, I'm liking it. I might change this. Maybe I'll switch. I haven't decided yet. But as you can see, it's many different ways that you can work with your shoulder pad. So I hope that you rummage through all of your supplies, because I know somewhere in there there's a shoulder pad waiting for you. And you too can make some fabulous designs with your shoulder pad dolls. Put you right here, get you nice and comfortable. All right. Okay. All right, so until next time, have fun, and I'll see you later. Bye.